Who are you?
I'm what's left. Or maybe I'm all there ever was.
Kingdom Hearts, the entire story. Was it all just Xehanort's fault? Was it just because he wanted to know more about the darkness? Yes, the drama is real. Kingdom Hearts, my favorite series. Recently, I saw the arc pop up in the whole Unchained / Union Cross story, and I was like, how was that even there? Like, what?
You're stupid!
So I had to go all the way to the beginning, and these are the facts I found. It's probably not bulletproof, but like...
Me? I'm already half Xehanort.
That's nuts!
A big draw of this series is the fact that, like, the ultimate truth is constantly unattainable, and it's, like, a huge tease, and every secret ending just blows your mind, and it's like, I love the aesthetic, but it does kind of drive me insane, so maybe I can make a little sense of it before I dive in from the beginning.
A meaningless effort. One who knows nothing can understand nothing.
The first game would be Birth by Sleep, technically, which I love. I need to go from the beginning in a timeline. It's going to be very specific. There's a lot of pieces, and I'm going to seem a little crazy, but it's not my fault because I did not write this, and I didn't mean to fall in love with it as much as I did.
There is so very much to learn. You understand so little.
It all began here in Daybreak Town.
So, going all the way to the beginning, we have the Master of Masters and the Foretellers. He makes a Charithi, he makes a book of prophecies into the future. He has Ava, Envy, Ased, Gula, Ira, but also someone named Lushu. They're some of the earliest characters in the canon that we know of in the past, the Master of Masters. He makes himself a Master of Masters back when there was no Keyblade Master, and it was just a realm of light, and Kingdom Hearts was actively out and part of the world, and it was basically a utopia situation. There was one Keyblade, which we call the X-Blade, or Kai, whatever you want to call it, but it's pronounced Keyblade, and it's supposed to be the main protector of this Kingdom Hearts entity, and people were fighting over it, and the Master of Masters lets loose that the war started before he was even born. He was a young boy, and the war was already, like, in the thick of it. So even though we see the main clash that Kairi's grandmother is talking about in Kingdom Hearts 1 in this first episode, which is basically a movie, it technically goes back further than that, and there's more details that we just don't even know.
Got it memorized?
The Master of Masters, he writes a book of prophecies which presumably knows everything about the future as accurately as possible. He does see very, very far into the future because he mentions when he gives his Keyblade that it has his eye. Lushu, who's holding that Keyblade, takes his eye into the future by living on through multiple people. As far as this Keyblade goes, the Master of Masters can see it. That's how he's able to write and transcribe the future. It knows everything. It's a lot of information. Someone could tamper with time at that point. After giving the book a box which contains something we don't really know what it is, and the Keyblade which has his eye, and then he just walks off after stirring a bunch of drama, which we'll get into in the movie. 5 unions clash, and that's the main Keyblade War that we think of when we hear about it. Because that changes the world forever. Right now we're in the age of fairy tales, it's where it all starts. But because of this war, everything goes to shit.
Got it memorized?
The only people who live on are the members of the Dandelions, who Ava gets together. He tells her to gather people that she thinks is worthy to carry on the light of the world, so that darkness doesn't take over. He tells them all super weird things to do, because he knew the world was doomed. For unknown reasons, darkness is a formless entity that is just chilling around in the age of fairy tales, and he has something to do with it, and we don't know what that's really about.
Well, what are you talking about?
And that's just Kingdom Hearts Key, the very first phone game, and its movie format, which kind of condenses it, but also just abridges it, so it doesn't give you all that information, hence this big-ass timeline. I'm telling you. The timeline, it's crazy. Okay.
Got it memorized?
Then we move on to Union Cross, okay? It's like the sequel to the phone game. That's a very glossed over explanation, but please. The only people left are those dandelions. The only reason why they're alive is because they're now in a digital version of Daybreak Town, made by the Master of Masters to presumably save these people. In that digital realm, Maleficent is time traveling back and ends up there. The Maleficent we know from Kingdom Hearts 1, we killed her, right? Well, Riku did. Wrong. Her heart was released and she time traveled to the past and you're an idiot.
Huh?
And at the time you're just like, what? And later on, apparently that actually explains why she left and how she came back. She runs into darkness itself and it explains that she's in the digital version and shows her how to get back. Which brings me all the way back to the thing that made me think, I don't know anything, the arc. There are 2 arcs. One is in actual Daybreak Town, and that will take you into the future. And then the ones in the digital version of that world will just take you to actual Daybreak Town, which is in shambles, right? So keep that in mind because it's important. A bunch of darkness drama happens, super glossed over. Main characters that we see, which I'm going to introduce here, are from Union Cross, and they are the leaders of the Dandelions, and they were picked by Ava. Most of them take arcs into the future. They take the first arcs into the real world, and then those arcs into the future, including Lorium, who we know as Marluxia, or Marlugia. I spelled him wrong, I don't know why.
You're stupid!
But anyways, he had the scythe, and he was around in Chain of Memories days. There's like a younger version of him, his sub-buddy, which I'll also get into. And he has a sister named Starlitzia to the left, who we've never met before. Then we have Ephemer, the one in the middle. He popped up in Kingdom Hearts 3, if you recall. Skuld, who is found out in some secret reports to actually be Subject X, which is a whole other shenanigan. Brain, who, oh, we'll get to that, but Brain is there, and he's a new character, and we're like, okay, yeah, he's like cool or whatever. And then we have Ventus/Ven, obviously from Birth by Sleep, right? Obviously. We have Elrena, aka Larxene. So all of these people were supposed to be in the guild except one. Ven is technically not supposed to be there. Starlitzia is killed by presumably the darkness that is in Ventus.
Goodbye.
Next we have the Union members going to the world, going to the future. Not everyone, but most of them. And then they also reveal something huge, which is when the Keyblade War happened and all those members died, they fuse with their Charithis and become what we know as Dream Eaters.
Hey, I didn't catch your name. Dream Eaters. That's a weird name.
Wow, that's crazy, and like a really weird specific thing. But after that, we have Brain making an unknown pact with Lucio, which brings me back to Foreteller's Lucio going into the future. We know him as Braig and Zigbar, but in between there, apparently, he hops via Brain's body from this union, and we don't know like why they made these plans or whatever. It's super weird. They just cut into the future and it's done. So that's the whole like sequel. Very, very heavily condensed.
Got it memorized?
So Ephemer is one of the people who gets into an arc and goes into the real world. He doesn't go very far into the future at all, and he rebuilds Daybreak Town into what we know as Scarlet Kylo in Kingdom Hearts 3, which is a huge reveal. And then Xehanort apparently is a reincarnation of us, the player, who is someone who's also in the Union and in the story the entire time. So that's a really intense detail that we hadn't known for a long time. That's just like, oh my goodness, my brain is gonna explode.
This is an insane amount to get memorized.
He's raised on Destiny Islands, even though he was born in Scarlet Kylo, that's his hometown. And eventually he goes back there because of time travel shenanigans. Ericus is also born, and apparently he's a descendant of a Dandelion, and we don't know who, but he also has the Master Defender Keyblade, so I don't know how he had it, or if he's supposed to be like related to Brain, who had it before, and he gives it to Ephemer. I don't know. They don't explain it, and they don't really say. We have Ericus, and then these other characters are his classmates who apparently die, which We don't have true confirmation if it's them, but who else would it be? Erd, Hermid, Bragi, and Vor. They're all in Scarlet and Kylam, learning to become Keyblade Masters, and we don't know much about them either. The most mysterious character is a guy named Master Odin. He's their teacher. Odin is from Norse mythology and is known to be this like all-knowing entity or god, and his one eye is able to see into the future, so that seems very similar to another character we know. The Master of Masters, perhaps. They find out that the upperclassmen who were supposed to become masters and take their Mark of Mastery exam have gone missing, and it jumps way into the future after they go out into the worlds looking for them, and suddenly all of Xehanort's current classmates are dead, and he's visiting their graves, and when he talks to Ericus, he blames himself for it. We don't know why, but he thinks it's his fault that they're dead, and it's really hefty stuff, and we don't get any exposition as to why that happened, so that's a major mystery about his character right off the bat.
Which is in itself a crazy long story.
And then after that, because of the cutscene in Kingdom Hearts 3, we find out that the Master of Masters gives Xehanort the Black Cloak, and apparently they had talked before, but we never see that, so... And that is what I call the beginning of the Age of Order, because now, from that point on, the world isn't all one place. It's the split up worlds that we visit, all those Disney worlds. That's why they have this whole discussion about world order all the time and maintaining it, because these worlds aren't supposed to be hyper aware of each other. But there's definitely times where that rule doesn't hold completely true, so it depends on characters and situations. It's pretty wacky. Sometime in between that, young Xehanort travels to get together the real Organization 13 for Dream Drop, and eventually also for Kingdom Hearts 3. Leading into Birth by Sleep, what we know is that Ericus gets the Master Defender Keyblade, and he is in charge of a place called Land of Departure, which we don't know the true nature of, really. And Xehanort inherits the no-name Keyblade, which is on the wall of the school that they're getting their Mark of Mastery at. So he graduates and is given the oldest Keyblade known to man. Whew! Okay, and then the very last thing before that is at some point, Ven, who landed into the future, ends up working with Xehanort and being taught by him, and that leads to the very beginning of Birth by Sleep in the Land of Departure.
Got it memorized?
Okay, so this is the entire makeup of Xehanort's existence. He's a reincarnation of us, ourselves, our player. That's my cute little player that I made when I first played the game. And we see like one shot of him as a baby. He has silver hair already. And right there you see his normal clothes. And that right there, when he's growing up in Destiny Islands, his own heartless form, which we'll describe in a second, is traveling back to that point and opens a portal for him to get to Scarlet and Kylam and have the whole episode of Dark Road even happen. He shows up there, he grows up, he goes to that school, learns to wield a Keyblade. Master of Masters gives him the coat, he time travels, he collects Xemnas, Ansem, Seeker of Darkness, Terra Xehanort, Vanitas, and Dark Riku when he's possessed by Ansem. He takes them all from different points in time and jumps them to Dream Drop, and then again in Kingdom Hearts 3. At some point in between there, which is the biggest gap, might be explained in the phone game, might not. All we know is that he went seeking for darkness, and Ericus was left in charge of Land of Departure, and there was some kind of drama, and they just kind of faded from each other, but it wasn't like a harsh parting as far as we know. We know him as, like, you know, Old Baldy, the main bad guy, Master Xehanort, first seen in Birth by Sleep. At that point, he needs a new vessel, and he takes over Terra, which leads to him becoming an apprentice of Ansem the Wise, and leading to the main events of Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 and all that stuff. While he's trying to do all these tests on Hearts and Heartless, and trying to figure out the true nature of the Hearts of Worlds, he somehow does something really messed up in Radiant Garden, bad enough to change its name to Hollow Bastion, I guess. And in that process, apparently he becomes a Heartless, and therefore has a nobody, which we know as Xemnas. His Heartless form didn't have a body. It was just floating around. And that's when he was like, okay, I'm going to time travel, because I have a master plan. I have a great, great plan. He goes back in time. He tells himself, okay, do this, which is instantly a time loop, so presumably there's a history where he doesn't become a Keyblade Master. But that's just my theory, that's total speculation. And he comes back to the present. We see him for the first time in Kingdom Hearts 1 when we're gathering mushrooms.
Who's there?
I've come to see the door to this world.
Eventually he meets Riku, possesses him, and because of that, apparently now his Heartless has a form. Apparently when you defeat a Heartless and a Nobody, it goes recompleted to its original form, so guess who's back? Master Xehanort! Oh goodness. Okay, this is the true Organization 13 in Dream Drop Distance. It's not the same 13 as Organization 13, the original, which is Kingdom Hearts 2 in Chain of Memories. There's Semnis, Zigbar, Zaldin, Vexen, Lexaeus, Zexion, Saix, Axel, Demyx, Luxord, Marluxia, or Marluxia, Larxene, and Roxas. So many X's.
Got it memorized?
These are all the somebodies of those same nobodies. So we have Loria, who we know from the mobile game now, El Reino, Isa and Lee, Dylan, Alias, hahaha, good one, Alias, Ienzo, Evan, and Bragg are all featured in Birth by Sleep, and of course we recognize those guys. Sora and Ventus both have a tie to Roxas in a weird sort of way because even though it's technically Sora's nobody, he looks a lot, if not exactly, like Ventus.
Ven looks just like Roxas. Or is it Roxas looks just like Ven?
Obviously, we know Xemnas is Xehanort's nobody. And that leaves a couple of mysteries. We have Luxord and Demyx, first of all. Neither of them have ever been revealed as their somebody, so we don't know their origins whatsoever. Naminé is described as the truest nobody that never was, which is a whole, like, wormhole.
That's nuts!
While as Xion was the 14th member for a while, in 358 over 2 days, she became friends with Axel and Roxas and faded away.
Shion! Who else will I have ice cream with?
You owe me a pizza.
But I'm not even going to get into that. She's made up of Sora's memories, and that's why she's able to use a Keyblade.
You've got it memorized, Axel.
There's one more thing. I know. I'm so close. There's one more. Just bear with me. There's one more slide. Kingdom Hearts itself I found to be pretty confusing. So, we have, before all of these, the actual Kingdom Hearts, which of course they fought over. The first one we see in the canon, technically, is Birth by Sleep. That one is made by having Vanitas and Ventus fight each other, and it makes a imperfect version of the Keyblade, so that he can get Kingdom Hearts. At some point we see Xehanort kind of use some kind of spell to clear the clouds, but it's confirmed by Tetsuya that he's not like summoning Kingdom Hearts, he's just clearing it away to show that it's still existing, and that it's getting closer. But they never actually use it to do anything, and he doesn't become a god or anything like that, so I call it an imperfect Kingdom Hearts. They could all still be the same Kingdom Hearts, it's just very mysterious and not fully explained, so it's all conjecture. So in Kingdom Hearts 1, that brings up the Door to Darkness, and that also shows up in Kingdom Hearts 2.
Did somebody mention the Door to Darkness?
In the finale of that same game, we see the Door to Light. The Door to Light you can only walk through if you are an entity of light, and the Door to Darkness you can only walk through safely if you are an entity of darkness. Which explains why Riku and Mickey and Sora all end up on the sides of the door that they do, because they can't go through it. You can see, because of the outline of the picture I have, that Kingdom Hearts itself in the first one has that moon shaded in the background, so we never actually reveal it, and as far as details as to what it is, Ansem is able to make it by using the heart of all worlds, or at least all known worlds at the time. Later on we find out about the whole clashing 7 light, 13 darknesses, so I have some attempts to justify what would be 7 lights and 13 darknesses. The 7 lights hold up pretty good because it's, you know, the 7 princesses of light, but as far as 13 darknesses go, yeah, it's mostly just a sad attempt, and I don't think he was thinking about 13 darknesses and 7 lights for every time. But it still explains why the first and second one, and even the one in Kingdom Hearts 2, are technically not really a true summoning of Kingdom Hearts, because they don't have that clash of 7 light and 13 darknesses. Kingdom Hearts 1's was Heart of Worlds, Kingdom Hearts 2 uses the Heart of People. Actual Kingdom Hearts shows up in Kingdom Hearts 3 because of the clash of 7 light, 13 darknesses, pictured there, And the actual Keyblade, which he actually wanted, he finally gets. And that is everything. As you can see, Kingdom Hearts is very complicated. It's a fantastic story, but it hurts my brain. And so, I'm starting from the beginning. There's just so many questions that I have that some of them I assume will be answered.
Didn't get it memorized, huh?
But in the meantime, I get to fight with Keyblades and see cool shit, and that's what I'm here to do, so I'm on board. But it was worth it. It's all worth it in order to understand just exactly what Kingdom Hearts is, because I love it so much. Because it's so weird, but I know I love it to pieces, so I'm gonna play it again like I always do. And I'm going to try and switch it up this time. Thanks for watching. I hope it wasn't too confusing and that you could kind of follow along and get, pieces from it. Yeah, I'm just so glad you were able to join me and see it, and I'll be streaming again soon. Thanks so much, and may your heart be your guiding key. I try not to laugh, but no, but seriously. Alright, get out of here.